want to make sure we're all on the same page when we talk about nonprofits, what a nonprofit is and how fundraising is tied to that. It's a common myth that a nonprofit cannot make a profit. It's critical for a nonprofit to generate income to grow its mission, and a nonprofit must create revenue to do its work. Any revenue that exceeds expenses must be committed to the organization's purpose and not taken by private parties. So, for example, your board cannot be paid, and that's why we call it the nonprofit sector. My role as a development director is to advance the mission of the organization by raising revenue, and you can too. Just a little bit more about how many nonprofits there are. According to the IRS, there's over 1.5 million nonprofits in the US, and they have missions describing the collective public or social benefit that they do. This can include schools, businesses, churches, social clubs, human services, etc. And according to the Michigan Nonprofit Association, there's over 55,000 nonprofits alone in Michigan, representing over 11% of the workforce. Nonprofits serve as anchor institutions in communities, both large and small, benefiting the health, well-being, education, and environment of our residents. Over 90% of nonprofits in Michigan generate under $1 million a year. And finally, nonprofits are governed by a board of volunteers. The board usually sets the policies for the organization, provides oversight, and hires the lead staff people. In new or very small nonprofits, the board could also be doing all of the work. Okay, it might be helpful if you have a scratch piece of paper, or you can do this in your head as well. But I want you to picture or draw two triangles. The first triangle, color in 20% of the triangle at the top and write donors over the top of that one. And on the second triangle, color in 80% of the triangle and write dollars. These, in most nonprofits, 20% or less of their donors give 80% or more of the organization's revenue. And these donors can be foundations, individuals, corporations. According to Giving USA, the 20% of donors giving top dollars is trending smaller. And in many organizations, that number is 10% or less. We're seeing a trend in less donors giving more dollars. That's a concern for the nonprofit sector. And places like the Association of Fundraising Professionals and Council of Michigan Foundations are advocating to create better tax incentives so that not only wealthy donors can get tax breaks by giving and to try to change this trend. I think it's interesting to note that in the Chronicle of Philanthropy, they announced that there was an increase in giving first quarter this year compared to last quarter. So we will be hopeful that the giving trend is changing. However, those who give $100 or less is significantly changing over the years. So we'll still keep our eye on that. Okay, now draw two circles. In advancement, I mentioned that we work to grow resources to further the mission of an organization. And one way we do this is by growing our network of donors and potential donors. We start with those who are closest to the organization. So in the middle of your first circle, draw a smaller circle. This circle contains those who are closest to your organization. Who are they? Think about that. Staff, volunteers, maybe your board members, your clients, your most consistent donors, perhaps some of your larger donors. Then draw another circle around that small circle. And who is in that circle? Those are people who perhaps gave a one-time gift to your organization. Maybe they're retired staff people, family of clients. These are people who are still connected to your organization, but not connected at the same level as that first circle. Then draw another circle around those two circles. And who's in this ring? Those are people who maybe follow your social media. Maybe they're friends of your major donors, people who've heard about your organization, those that believe in your mission. I can't tell you how many times volunteers over the years have asked me if I've asked Bill Gates for money for an organization that I've worked with. And Bill Gates might be a dozen rings away from that small center circle. And so when you think about raising money for your program or your organization, even remember this exercise, because when you think about raising money, make your focus realistic. You only have so much time and money and resources to dedicate to this. And so think about those who are closest to your organization or closest to your mission. Okay, in your second circle, think about a pie chart. I want you to guess the percentage of individuals in the US who contribute to nonprofits versus corporations or foundations. And you can put your guess in the chat of what percentage you think individuals give to nonprofits overall in the US versus corporations or foundations. Any thoughts? 35%? Anybody else have an idea? 50%? Anyone else? What percentage of individuals give? Well, I think you're going to be surprised. 25%. The answer is over 67%. 67% of individuals give to nonprofits. And last year, according to Giving USA, over 300 billion was donated to nonprofit organizations. Individuals gave the most money, followed by foundations, which is 18.6%, and corporations, which is 6.6%, and bequests from individuals who have passed away make up the rest of the money. So it's a surprising amount. Individuals give a lot of money to organizations. So think about those people who are closest to you in that first circle. They might be some of your potential donors. Okay, sorry about that. I was having trouble with my clicker. All right, so an example here. I was once on the board of a health clinic, and I learned that almost 90% of their fundraising came from grants from foundations. The clinic was in need of growing their funding. They wanted to expand their funding to help pay for their dental clinic, and the executive director was a good friend. He was super smart, but he was very introverted and kind of afraid to go ask people to help support the mission. And so what we did was I tried to make this really close to home. Like, let's just start with people that we know who might be interested in our mission, or might be, maybe they gave a one-time gift, or maybe they give small gifts once a year. Like, let's come up with a group of people who we can invite once a week to come visit the clinic and visit us and see what's going on here and just get to learn about what we do. We're not asking them for money. We're just getting them to learn about what we do. And then later on, we could add those people to our mailing list, and they could get the newsletter, they could get an annual appeal at year end, and maybe we could invite them to our annual luncheon if we think they might be interested in giving in that way. I kept thinking about those 67% of individuals that give to other nonprofits, and we were totally missing the boat on that. We just didn't have that connection. And so there was so much opportunity to grow. Sometimes we keep doing things because it's just the way we've always done them, and we're just comfortable doing that. In this situation with the health clinic, we didn't add an event. We didn't invest a lot of money. We simply needed to start using our network to grow what was already in place. So think about that at your own organization. Okay, now think about a rectangle. The rectangle shape represents stewardship, like tax receipts or thank you notes. And it also represents data reports. Excellent stewardship will usually lead to more donations. So if you have current donors, what are you doing beyond a tax receipt to thank them? Share your ideas in the chat. If you work with volunteers or work with donors who support your programming, what do you do to thank those people? Share your ideas. One Habitat for Humanity director that I know emails video thank yous from work sites. And my president at the community foundation where I work, she worked with a local coffee roaster to create a legacy blend of coffee so that we can give that to professional advisors to thank them for their referrals, or to people who who join our legacy society here. So thanking people doesn't have to cost a lot of money. You don't have to go out and create your own coffee blend, but doing something to thank people keeps them connected. Once a year, I write a special thank you to donors who give monthly recurring gifts. And when I worked at a college, we invited donors to student concerts as a way of saying thank you. Saying thank you doesn't have to cost much, but it will cost your organization future revenue if you don't thank people at all. Data reports is something I mentioned earlier, and you usually have at least one person at your organization who is really good at this type of work with analytics and so on. Think of the first circle you drew earlier. Can you do some digging into your database to find some of those people? Maybe not only look at donors who gave consistently last year, but gave some year but not last year, or donors who give consistently at a lower amount who might consider giving a higher amount, or people who volunteer for your cause. The advancement, your development office plays a vital role in your nonprofit organization, and without it, you couldn't track your donors or say thank you to your donors or work to find new donors. Your data is only good as what you enter in, and if you don't track those people who give time and money, you're not going to be able to pull out really good reports. So make sure you help those people get the data in that can help you get those reports out in the future. Okay, so here's the three main things that you need to know to raise more money for your organization. Let's say for this Homeless Awareness Month, you're thinking about offering a webinar for area professionals who are more apt to come in contact with homelessness, and teach people how homelessness is impacting your community and steps that can be taken to help people. Your first step is to develop your case. The second step is to think about your allies, those people that can make your case come to life. And third, you need to ask these people to support you and to help you out. A good fundraising plan will incorporate all three things and will answer a lot of the questions that you see here. We're going to take a closer look at each one of these steps. So first of all, you can develop your case. It can be as simple as what you see here. Defining what, why, how, by when helps you create a case statement. Once you create a case, you can give it to your supervisor, you can give it to your colleagues to help them understand what it is you need to create a better event this year. How do you raise more awareness this year? And it can help your donors understand why they should give their money to you. A case statement can be like an elevator pitch. It can be really short and sweet like this. I've also seen some case statements that are a booklet, pages long for maybe a big comprehensive campaign. It really isn't rocket science, but if you don't have a compelling case, you're probably not going to get what you need, because you need to communicate that to other people. Putting a deadline on a case can help create a sense of urgency. An example is exactly this. You need some money to get more social media, to raise awareness in your community, to define targeted groups about the issues and solutions surrounding homelessness. The first step in developing your plan is simply to put it down in writing and get it approved. Next, find, remember, and connect with your allies. Allies are those internal colleagues or close volunteers who can assist you with your work, like the database analyst who can run that list of donors, or the marketing coordinator who can help you promote your event on social media. Allies are also people external to your organization, like your current donors. Think about the circle exercise, that first one we did. Allies are those who are close to you and your organization. I used to be a sailing advisor for a college team, and here's a picture of some of my students, and the students were very good at inviting their parents and alumni sailors to help them run regattas. And pictured here is the executive team that year with a grandma of one of the students. Year after year, this team invited this woman to make food for the home regattas because she did such a good job and she loved doing it. And she even did it after her grandchild was long graduated. And this group would always send her a signed thank you note year after year. And eventually one year they found out that her husband dropped her off one year, and they found out he worked for a company that made boat trailers. And the team asked if her husband would consider donating one, and together they did. This woman felt so connected and comfortable and a part of the team, even though she had no students attending, that she felt like giving. So making your allies feel connected to your mission, to your program, makes them want to give more down the road. So keep that in mind.
Abby, this is Amy. Could you speak to, sometimes I think people think allies are just the people who've given them money per se, but they're not. They can be in unexpected places that we don't often think of. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. Allies can be, let's say you want, they aren't just financial, but they can lead to financial. They can be that volunteer who can, let's say you need some strategic planning, or let's say you need some photography. These are your volunteers who can help you with your programming and enhancing your programming, or oh gosh, anybody who can help you further your mission is an ally. Anybody who can make connections for you. Your board might know friends. Just think of that first circle that we drew and those outer rings. How can you broaden your breadth of allies? It's not just fundraising. That's our focus today, but it's the people that your family members and friends that know people that work at different organizations. Does that explain it? Amy, do you think? Any other insights, Bob or Amy, about allies?
I think sometimes like your vendors that you have a business relationship, like those that carry your insurance or payroll, or corporate neighbors you share a building with, things like that. Thanks,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I work at a community foundation. I have colleagues that work at other community foundations that I call upon all the time and say, what do you do in this situation? Or do you have an idea about this? So your peers at other organizations might have solutions for you. Those are your allies too. Okay, this is an example of a donor pyramid. And this is of a college, okay, that was trying to raise big money to make a big addition and do some renovations. They used a gift range calculator to find out how many gifts they would need in a variety of ranges to meet their goal. According to the Association of Fundraising Professionals, there's a general formula that's used because it's typically what happens in big fundraising campaigns. I'm not saying that you need to go out and raise $1 million for your organization, but even if you are thinking about raising $1,000 or $5,000, think about what size gifts and how many gifts you would need to make that happen. Sometimes people miss that part, and it's a great exercise to even just draw out a pyramid, because let's say you would really want $10,000. That's your plan A to meet this case that you have. And let's say, to meet that $5,000 case, you put that $10,000 in this gift range calculator, and it says you need maybe a $5,000 gift. Who do you know? How can you work with your development office? Who do you know who could give you a big gift to make it to that goal? If you can't find people at that top of your donor pyramid, it's going to be really hard to meet that goal. Not impossible, nothing's impossible, but having a big goal with no big donors isn't going to help you. And that's where you need to use your allies to help you figure out who those names are to plug into that pyramid. I've used this pyramid in super big capital campaigns at colleges, and I've used it in really small programs to just, even to get volunteers to do things for me, like who visually, I'm a visual person, so I just plug in those names in a pyramid format like this, and then work my pyramid to, here's the people I need to talk to. Who are those financial allies who are going to help you get what you need? This exercise is super helpful to figure that out. One of the main reasons people give is because you ask them. You ask them to give, and never forget that. But they also give for some of the reasons you see here. Engaging your donors and network and keeping them informed helps them also want to give to you financially. How'd you spend their money? What were the outcomes? People who feel close and connected to your organization tend to give more. But remember, people give, the number one reason they give is because you ask. The Girl Scout who comes to your front door, you buy those cookies because your neighbor asked you to buy those boxes of cookies. Or, just think of all those samples of times you might have helped somebody in a walkathon, or it's those people that know you who ask you, and that's why you gave, because you were asked. That is the number one reason, no matter what the dollar level is. You got to ask. Once you have your case and you've mapped out who your allies are to help you get there, the next step to think about is how you're going to make the ask. So think about what we talked about earlier. You might want to go to Meyer and ask them to sponsor your newsletter, but Meyer might have a dozen other organizations asking them to do similar things. Do you have an ally at Meyer who you'll need to do you have an ally at Meyer, or are you going to have to take time and effort to try to find an ally at Meyer? Think about your return on investment. Think about asks that are going to be simple and big enough and make a difference. You only have so much time and energy to put towards this. Inventing a new event can be really costly and can take a ton of your time, not to say that it isn't a good thing to do. But maybe you could go to a dedicated volunteer who has the ability to give a big gift and just asking one person for the money might be way easier than inventing this whole big new event. Think about that return on investment. Next, think about how you can piggyback and ask with something you already do. Perhaps your organization has a luncheon with an auction. You could add a few items to that auction that would specifically support homeless awareness activity to that auction. But whatever you do, keep things simple so that you can sustain it and you can add to it over time. Before we talk about types of fundraising and the magic phrase, I want to remind you that most of you have a development department in your organization with at least one individual or a fundraising committee by your board of directors who focuses on fundraising. Find these allies and get their buy-in before you make an ask. For example, if you want to raffle off an item at your golf outing, the people in your development office will know that you need to fill out special forms with the state of Michigan before you can do any form of gambling. This office can help you get reports. They can help connect you with donor lists. They can help you make asks. That is their job, and more. So get to know them before you ask to make sure that you're doing things correctly and legally, because there are special forms to do certain things when you're asking for money. Okay. Take a few moments to share in the chat the types of fundraisers that have worked for you in the past for your organization or for raising more money for Homeless Awareness Month. Let's share let's be allies with each other and share with each other what's worked in the past. How have we done this? Have we gone to an ally to get fundraising get money within our organization? Have we gone outside of our organization to ask for money? Write down in the chat something that's worked for your department, for you or your department or your organization as far as raising money. What's been successful?
And perhaps if not for Homeless Awareness Month, just your organization in general.
Yeah, it can just be in general. It doesn't have to be for homeless awareness. But what are those things that have been most successful that you're aware of? Any thoughts? Email? Whack for warmth. I want to know what that is. Dinners? Mm-hmm. Tours? In-person connection. Love it. Different outings, different events. Great. Good, good, good. Typically, as you can see from this screen, face-to-face, in-person meetings are going to make you more money than an email blast will typically do. So think about your case, how much money you need to raise. Think about the allies who can link you to other people. Think about the allies who might have friends who can help you. I once was volunteering for a club and teamed up with another club because they were connected to a really cool venue to have a dinner auction event. And we both worked on the event because it was more work than I could do by myself. And we split the proceeds in the end. This helped promote our clubs and raise money. It created a bigger first time event and it got us more access to more allies. Your development office employs people who raise money year after year, and they're constantly looking for donors who can give gifts to your organization. So if you can work together with your development office and link them to your allies, it could mean more money for your program. Share your case of support and your list of allies with them, and talk about how they can partner with you to get you the money that they need. Okay, yeah, and find colleagues at like-sized organizations and share with them what works for you and what questions you have. Like I said, that's been very helpful for me in my career.
I'm gonna drop in the chat what I think is the whack for warmth, but for the person who put that, if I'm wrong, we were curious what that was. Sounds like it's a golf outing.
Oh, that makes sense. Love it. Okay, here's the secret phrase. If you're asking in person or over the phone, once your donor understands your case, then ask if the person would consider supporting it. Be specific and then wait for an answer. Remember, if this person is an ally, you have nothing to fear because allies want to help you. Like that grandma wanted to help those student sailors with food and giving them a trailer. Your allies want to help your community and help people who are homeless get the services that they need. If you're afraid of the word no, if you get a no, consider it a learning experience. I often hear no's as no, not right now. Rarely is a no meaning no, never. Don't talk to me again. Because you're talking to people usually who are somewhat close or very close to your organization. They do care, they are your allies, and they want to help you. So don't be afraid to ask somebody, would you consider? I recommend that if you are talking to a potential big donor, and that a big donor could be like somebody maybe $1,000 or even $500 or more. It depends on your organization what that dollar figure is. Consider bringing a person from your development office. That way you can talk more about your case for support. This is what we're working on and why. And then the development professional or the volunteer development professional can make the ask for you. Practice this phrase. I practice it on my husband. I practice it on my colleagues here at work. Over time, this phrase will get easier for you to make the ask to your allies. You know that the cause you work for, the mission you work for, is an important one. Affordable housing and all the things that cause homelessness are real. You know how important this is. There are financial allies out there who feel the same way, and they're just waiting for somebody to ask them to support a cause like this. Ask them or they won't give. Start practicing this phrase and you'll be surprised how often people will actually step up and give you a hand. Okay, you can do this. You can create a case for support. You can find, track, and thank your allies. You can figure out how to make the ask in a way that's right for you and right for your organization. And you can give yourself permission to learn from your no's and to celebrate your successes. So at this point, I'm going to open it up for any questions you might have. And below you can see my email address. If you have questions after the program, you're welcome to shoot me an email as well.
And you can have the ability to either put your question in the chat. All of you should be able to go off mute and ask the question. So please feel free.
I see there's a question in the chat. What suggestions do you have for pricing an event? Is there a guide in terms to minimum or maximum to ask? I think every community is different and every organization is different. Do some research, talk to some other development professionals at like-sized organizations and just see what they do, see what they price things out for. If it's a first-time event, I would definitely do homework to figure that out. What's kind of working in your community at like-sized organizations. If you've had the same pricing for a long time, just like anything, I think it's time to raise those numbers and to take a look at that year after year to make sure that you're getting the best return on investment and not just keeping things status quo and the way they've always been.
And one more question, type away, please. Or you can, I hope, go off mute and ask. Rosie, I think I changed a setting. I did not realize this was locked down so folks couldn't speak. So if you want to go off mute and ask, or you can put it in the chat.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me. I learned a lot during this session. I wanted to ask, you said at the beginning that it's a myth that fundraisers should not be profitable for the organization that's giving it. So when you're having like an event, just in general, a fundraiser, how do you communicate what amount of proceeds will go to, whatever your cause is? How do you have to specify like a certain percentage? Should you be specific? Should you, how do you communicate that to the people who may attend your fundraising event?
I'd be very specific about where their money's going, the impact. Oftentimes for a big event, if an organization is having a big event, it'll be going to unrestricted. It'll be paying for everybody. It'll be paying overhead, but sometimes it's for very specific programming as well. So I would make sure that whoever is at your event, that they know where the money is going. I would be very specific about that. If it's in general, if it's going to support the whole organization and help keep the lights on and help pay for staffing and unrestricted dollars, I would talk about that. But I would talk about it from telling stories about how your mission, how your organization is helping people, because that emotional hook of telling stories about the impact that your organization does usually goes a lot further than just say, hey, we're paying to keep the lights on. So I would do it in a way that it talks more about your programming and telling stories than giving them an accounting sheet or something like that.
But Abby, if it is going to the general fund, because we do have to keep the lights on, we have to pay folks, not everything comes from a grant. Do you, Rosie's question's a really good one, because sometimes I think organizations want to be more transparent when it's going to the general fund.
Yes.
Do you recommend being as direct about that, whether as opposed to a specific program?
I would definitely say if it's going to the general fund, to mention that. Now, this is where we're raising dollars for the general fund. And this is what that general fund, how that impacts the community, and telling stories about how your organization, the mission of your organization and what you do, can help raise money for something general like that.
So still tie it back to the impact you're making, even if it's to the general fund.
I definitely would, because without paying your staff, you have no programming.
Right.
You can't exist. So
And thank you. Again, I don't normally facilitate these, so I think what I've just figured out is if you don't want to put it in the chat, raise your hand and I can unmute you. I thought that was something you could do on your own, but I may have to. So I want to make it as easy as possible for people to speak up. So thanks for your patience. The other question from Ms. McIntyre, I'm still waiting on my 501c3. Does that affect the support I may or may not get?
I think the state has specific rules about fundraising, and I would double check with the state on what that is. I'm not up to speed on everything having to do with fundraising, but I do know that I worked with a fund advisor here at the Community Foundation, and she wanted to create a car show to raise money for a certain event. And you can't just be a person raising money for something that's not a nonprofit. That's the IRS doesn't okay that. And so I would double check with the state about the rules about fundraising if you don't have your 501c3 yet, because that will affect the support. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, in the state of Michigan, their website under the licensing or they have a lot of resources. I mean, this is a
Yeah.
really, I can put in the chat a high level one, but if you just even Google it, through Lara and other
Yeah, the
locations.
Michigan Nonprofit Association has a whole lot of resources too about starting a nonprofit.
And Abby, that was my other question. You mentioned talk to your development person, but like until Bob started with us fairly recently, we had development support, but I wouldn't say we had a director level person that would have
Sure.
that depth of expertise. Do you have some suggestions of where folks could go? And I can quickly Google them and drop them in the chat to get some of that information if they don't have an internal person.
Yes, definitely. The Michigan Nonprofit Association has good information. The Association of Fundraising Professionals, we have chapters across the state, and many chapters offer programming to members and non-members. And I know AFP West Michigan, our programming is open to anybody. So you can go on our website, AFP West Michigan, and see what we have coming up. Our virtual programs are $15. And we talk about a wide variety of fundraising issues. And we have people from all size organizations and beginners to veterans, veteran fundraisers joining us for those types of things. So that's really helpful. Dorothy Johnson Center out of Grand Valley State University also will offer some programming about fund development and nonprofits. And then some communities have different organizations, like on the Lakeshore here, we have the Lakeshore Nonprofit Alliance, and the Lakeshore Nonprofit Alliance offers lots of education and support to nonprofit organizations. So, Google what's in your community too, because you might have something, some experts in your backyard.
And Ms. McIntyre has another question too.
Okay.
Thanks for your patience, Sienna.
It's fine. So I do have all of my documentations. I'm registered with Laura. I have my EIN. I have my DBA. I have my just about everything administratively that I need.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
A lot of work.
I have all that. The only thing that I'm is that the tax exempt. So is that what I need to the other? Is that like almost the final piece of everything that I need?
It sounds, yeah, you're gonna have to have that.
Okay, that's what I'm working on now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Abby and Amy, if I might jump in. Tiana,
Please.
Could I ask, do you have your license to solicit charitable contributions from the state of Michigan?
I don't know. I don't know if only thing I got from the state of Michigan, well, in the mail is that I need to send off for my good standing letter and the employment work sign that I have to place in my window. Workers employ, whatever that thing is that you have to place. But I don't know if I have gotten what you just said, Bob.
Yeah.
Is that something different I need to apply for?
It very possibly is. I have your email address in our files. I'm going to send you a couple of things that might be helpful to you.
All right, thanks, Bob.
Does anybody have an idea of what they can add on to? You know, if you do some kind of fundraiser, can you add something else onto that, or some other type of program that you do? Can you add something to that to raise more money for homeless awareness? Did anybody have ideas in that regard?
Abby, for those people in the chat that had their Homeless Awareness Month event in mind, or they have done them before, or I suppose even if they haven't, when I've coached certain individuals last year in doing this, what about just soliciting area businesses? That's kind of a reciprocal, we'll promote your business. Thank you for your $500 donation. That to me seems like kind of low hanging fruit, but maybe I'm wrong. Can you speak to that a little bit of what might be a simple strategy to identify the right businesses and then how to engage and build a relationship with them to get a donation?
Yeah, businesses can work out too. You know, if they have something to do with, you know, if maybe they're a builder or have something to do with homes or food or something that your organization deals with, they may be a really terrific partner. It's trying to find the right ally to go talk to, because often businesses are bombarded by lots of nonprofits. And so it's just finding that right ally there that can help you. Sometimes businesses will give through their marketing departments. Sometimes they have a specific fundraising committee and they pick which organization they give to. So every business has a little different way of dealing with fundraising requests. So if it's a new organization, a new business that you're reaching out to, make sure that you kind of figure out how they work, you know, who you should talk to. It's going to take a little time and effort to figure that out. And like I said, businesses give, individuals give more. So keep in mind your return on investment when seeking dollars. But it's always that personal relationship, building those allies to figure out who can help you, who can help you in that business. Who do you know that can help you in that business?
Or if you're a client of that business, that might be a better fit.
That's a terrific thing. That's
Yeah.
a great in.
And Miss McIntyre, I just want to make sure that your hand is still up on Zoom. I didn't know if you had another question or.
Yes, I've been
okay.
trying to find this thing.
Thank you.
Hey, I want to could you speak on sponsorship? What's that? You know, what does that entail? I know I was thinking about doing a sponsorship letter, and one of the allies or agencies I work with, Terrence at Flint and Genesee Economic Development, was telling me that as far as like my packages, like gold packages, platinum, and adding what those different packages consist of. Can you speak on that for me? Because I don't, you know, I'm new to this.
Yeah, I mean, I would typically there's different levels. If you give at this level, you get this, or you give, you know, if you give at a higher level, we'll put your logo on this for an event. So those are typical sponsor type activity. I would be really careful.
Okay.
I wouldn't offer too many things. Keep it
Mhm.
really simple. I mean, if you're just starting out,
Mhm.
you really don't want to start managing this whole sponsorship, different levels.
Okay.
Keep it as simple as possible. You could have different levels, but you don't necessarily have to do, you know, a whole lot of things for those different levels. Just
Okay.
keep it as simple as possible. What
Okay.
works for you. It is always good to ask for a specific amount from an organization or a business or a person. But if you're just starting out, you got to start somewhere.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I mentioned a little bit about tracking, and having a donor database is really critical. So if you are reaching out and building relationships and get some good intel, share that. If you have a development office, share that with those people, because they keep notes about that,
Mhm.
so that they know what your donors are interested in. And so if your position changes, there'll be notes in the system about, hey, the organization had this relationship with this person, and this is what was said, and this is what was happening. So if you can somehow put notes in a system somewhere, that is super helpful.
Before I get off here, you spoke earlier about the young lady was asking you, like when you're asking for stuff or you're asking for money for different things, to put in there, it would be helpful to attach that emotional support on what you have done so far. So my organization is an organization that tends to advocate, educate, and inform individuals on housing issues, resources, renters' rights, and all of that stuff. So even with positive relocation, and I have helped quite a few people within this almost 4 months of establishing this. So when you get ready to put that into a letter or put that into a request for funding, is there a certain way, and this might be too much, that you need to word that, or you just need to put it
I mean,
in?
if you can get some direct quotes from people, and you don't have to use the person's last name. Let's say his name's Mike, and he gives you a quote on how you changed his life by providing the service that you provide.
Okay.
Use that in information
Okay.
in your letter.
Okay.
That would be
Thank you.
great.
Thank you.
These are great questions, and I really appreciate those that are speaking up, because like your teachers used to say, you may be asking it, but there's other people in the same boat that got handed this responsibility and are all starting at different places. So thank you.
Sure.
I do want to just make sure we've given enough time and opportunity for anyone else who has a question. It can be about an event you've been doing for years, but you want to make more revenue off of that and get more funds. It could be you don't have an event in mind at all and starting from scratch, or anywhere in between. Does anybody have any other questions? You have a great panel here with both Abby and Bob.
People give the most amount of money in the last 2 months of the calendar year. So you might want to keep that in mind too, as we're approaching fall. Most nonprofit organizations are getting their year-end letter put together, and most nonprofit organizations will send out a newsletter with an envelope in it, or something, some emails, or it's some coordinated campaign of all of those above. And so keep that in mind. November and December are really big giving months. So if you want to do something, right now is a great time to think about it and try something.
And don't reinvent the wheel. Google what you're looking for, and there's great templates and things out there of the resources you provided, Abby, that might give you a starting point. Abby or Bob, are there any closing remarks you would like to make if no one has any other questions?
I guess my closing remark is to say thank you for having me here today. What you do is incredibly important to our communities, and I really am grateful for all the work that you do. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to tell people what your case of support is, and to spread the word to your allies about what it is that you need. And don't be afraid to ask if they would consider supporting you.
Abby's done a great job of covering this. I have nothing to add except thanks everyone for attending.
And Greg, your question, will this information be made available? As I was chatting with Abby, you know, we're having the class today with about 40 people, but once we get this downloaded, it'll be on our YouTube channel. I'm going to upload it back to our Homeless Awareness Month website, and it'll be in subsequent Homeless Awareness Month newsletters. And then I'll also push it out on social media that it's available. So you might want to listen to it again, but I try to put it out in all different places. And then I dropped my email in the chat, astevenson@mihomeless.org. I am the HAM statewide coordinator. I have event planning expertise. I have marketing expertise. I am not the expert that Abby and Bob are, but I've done a lot of fundraising. So we're here. Micah is here to help. So grab my email, and if I can't help you, I can get you connected with someone who can, or if there are templates that I know exist to save you some time on different sponsor packages, letters, please reach out, because I'd like to help everyone in any capacity with their events. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And Abby, thank you so much for your time today.
You're very welcome.
All right. Thanks all. Take care.